Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
As we head into 4th of July weekend, we thought we would enjoy Shabbat through many of the melodies of American Jewish composers. We're going to begin with the words of Hine ma tovu ma naim, how good it is we're together this evening.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are excited to celebrate Shabbat with all of you who are here with us in our sanctuary and all of you who are celebrating with us at home, wherever home may be. We're glad that we're able to unite ourselves in different ways, in 2D and in 3D as one congregation, and to celebrate this special Shabbat in which we begin not only the celebration of our country and the incredible, fascinating experiment in democracy that represents the United States of America, but also to celebrate our newest spiritual leader in our congregation, Rabbi Elana Rabishaw, who will teach us Torah a little bit later in our service. And we're so excited to celebrate this momentous Shabbat with her and with whomever in her family are watching, and all of us in our congregation who now welcome her to be part of our family. In Pirkei Avot, Rabbi Hillel said, Al tistakel b'kankan ela b'ma sheyesh bo. Do not look at the flask, but at what it contains. It says, Yesh kankan chadash malei yashan v'yashan she'afilu chadash ein bo. There may be a flask that's the new flask that has lots of good old wine in it. And there may be an old flask that doesn't have any wine in it. And what the rabbis teach is this idea that there are really, in many respects, two parts to who we are as people. There is the outer part, and then the inner part. There is that peace inside of us that is implanted within us in the first moments of our being by the Holy One that gives us our kernel of energy, of holiness, of light, our spark. And then there are the garments that we use to cover it so that we can protect ourselves in the world. Rabbi Mordechai Yosef of Izbitza wrote that in the book of Isaiah we read, I will place my word in your mouth and I will cover you in the shadow of my hand. And he wants to understand this verse. And so he says there exists a good and precious point in every soul of every person amongst the community of Israel. But in this world, that point is dressed in a garment that makes it appear sometimes to be the opposite of its true nature. And so he says, take a look at a guy like Moses. In this week's Torah portion in Parshat Korach, Moses, whom the book of Numbers a few weeks ago described as the holiest person on the planet, the one with the most humility, is seen by Korach and his followers as among the most arrogant. And so the mantle of leadership, that garment of leadership that he was asked to don when he became the leader of the Israelites, makes him appear not just to Korach and his followers, but to the 250 people of well-regard and those who earned respect amongst the Israelites, to say that he was an arrogant leader, a haughty leader, one who had garnered to himself more power and prestige than he deserved. Rabbi Yosef also says this is true of King David, that his essential attribute was that he wanted what was best for the nation of Israel, and yet there were those that saw in him the same sense of arrogance and lack of modesty. Today, we celebrate the founding of our nation. We think about what it was on July 4th, 1776, to be one of those individuals to sign their name to the Declaration of Independence. If you read the Declaration of Independence, and I encourage everyone to do so at some stage over this weekend, it's a fairly arrogant document. It is a document that says something extraordinary, which is that we should no longer be ruled by you. That we believe, as the leaders of these 13 colonies, that we have a better way forward than the one you, King George, would propose to provide. And I am confident that those who were not in favor of the revolutionary aims of those colonists found in the men who authored and signed their names to that document a very significant amount of arrogance. And at the same time, we look back at the treason that those men, and they unfortunately were all men at that time, committed as one of the most historically virtuous acts in modern history, because they sought to propose a very different idea of a nation that would be governed of the people, by the people, for the people. What if we could look into each and every one of our neighbors, those with whom we share this country, and see in them that spark of holiness and light and not the garments that cover it? What if we could take a look and see that in every individual American there is a real human being, and that we shouldn't take so much focus on the garments of identity that we tend to wear, whether it's race or gender or nation of origin or religion or sexual orientation or party affiliation. We need to think hard about what we worship. Do we worship the text of Torah, or do we worship the God who authored it? Do we worship only the language of the Constitution, or do we need to consider the humanity of those who live under it? When we think about how we look at each other as Americans and how we look at our leaders, perhaps we need to make sure that we don't just look at the garments, whether it's judicial robes or congressional pins or addresses on Pennsylvania Avenue, but instead look into their hearts and to see what it is they're trying to fashion in this extraordinary experiment of self-governance. And perhaps if we can open our hearts up to what others may believe, we will have the humility and the temerity to express our own beliefs in a conversation and a dialogue that will breed a greater sense of consensus about who it is that we should be as a nation, what it is we should value, and how we can lift up each other so that we can realize the dreams of liberty and justice for all. Shabbat Shalom. It is with great pleasure that we invite you to greet each other, and perhaps you can note each other's garments, but maybe each other's souls. So turn to those seated near you, those in front of you, behind you, next to you. Wish them Shabbat Shalom. If you don't know those people, make sure you introduce yourselves. Our service begins with the celebration of the kindling of the Shabbat candles. And the candles will be kindled this evening by our congregation's Executive Vice President, Gina Sugar. Page 2.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all those who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own way and our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher Kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lihadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. We continue on pages 4 and 5 with the celebration of the Kiddush. The Kiddush will be led this evening by our congregation's Vice President of Religious Activities, Marcy Schultz. It's an inside joke, sorry.
The heaven and the earth were finished in all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all of the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila l'mikrae kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim kivanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh haShabbat.
L'chaim. There is a sense each and every time that Friday evening comes that we ask ourselves, is this the last one? Is this the last time there's going to be just one day of Shabbat? Or is this going to be the final day when the Messiah will come and the world will be redeemed and we're going to let go of all of our hatred and our enmities and our resentments, and we're going to somehow find a way to come together and build a world that is at one and at peace? I don't know if this will be that Shabbat, but God knows I am praying for it. So as we welcome the Sabbath bride, hopefully it won't be just for one day of wedded bliss between our world and God's world. It will be for a world united and at peace. Let us rise together. Page 20, Lecha Dodi.
Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor habracha mirosh mekerem nesucha sof maseh b'machsheva tehila lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat.
Sabbath bride.
Bo'ivir shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha u'b'tzola toch emuneham segula
As we celebrate Shabbat, we will be drawing on the wisdom of those in our nation's history who have fought to create a more perfect union. In the words of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we say together, "Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you." We come together into community so that we can celebrate the oneness and the strength that we find in ourselves, committed to those purposes and principles of our covenant of Israel. We continue in Baruch Hu, page 28. page 30, we read together, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or.
Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil bein yom ubein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, amari v'aravi. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha
Torah umitzvot, chukim umishpatim, otanu limadeta, al ken Adonai Eloheinu, b'shochbeinu kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei toracha, ub'mitzvotecha leolam va'ed.
Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha
Torah umitzvot, chukim umishpatim, otanu limadeta, al ken Adonai Eloheinu, b'shochbeinu kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei toracha, ub'mitzvotecha leolam va'ed.
Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha
Please rise.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam
Please be seated. Page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם למענך ודיברת בהם ושבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבת על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Part of what I love about the preamble to the United States Constitution is that it says, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Not a perfect union, a more perfect union. There was a sense that I believe the founders of our nation understood that the nation they sought to establish was in many ways like an asymptote. It is that vision that's out there somewhere, but it's not there yet. And who knows if we'll ever be able to get all the way there. I imagine what it must have been like for those who signed the Declaration of Independence on the evening of July 3rd, 1776. I imagine them going outside to look out at the summer stars and wondering what would befall the nation they sought to create, knowing that the odds for success were so perilously small, going up against the greatest army on the planet at the time. I wonder what it must have been like for people like Harriet Tubman, who were running away from the perils of slavery, to be lying in the woods somewhere looking up at the stars, wondering if they would make it to freedom, and wondering if there would ever be a day when they wouldn't need to run. I wonder what it must have been like for generations of our people when they had a long road ahead of them, a road that was unsure and uncertain, that you might not even be able to find in the dark, and yet to be able to pray that they would find that path, just as our ancestors who sat at the shores of an unparted sea of reeds, we think together the same words that their ancestors, their predecessors, should say, their descendants would say, as together we read in the words of Harriet Tubman, "Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world." Page 40.
מי כמוך באלים ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיעץ חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 42, we read together. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up our guardian to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai pores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Shabbat.
Last week, I had the privilege for the first time in 11 years to spend Shabbat in Israel. And over the week that I was there, just soaking up what that land means for us and for our people. Waking up, looking out over the Mediterranean Sea from Shehecheyanu, our sister city in the north. Seeing the hustle and bustle, and more importantly, the incredible work of wonderful NGOs in Tel Aviv, and spending last Shabbat at the Kotel with our friends of Beit Tefillah Yisraeli. My pools were filled, my emotional pools, my communal pools, my spiritual pools were filled. Now, I promised myself I wouldn't wait 11 years to fill them again. But I also know that every time we come together in worship, we have the opportunity to draw from each other and stand together and fill our own pools. And with that, I invite us now to look together to the words of Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who wrote that the moment we begin to fear the opinions of others and hesitate to tell the truth that is in us, and from motives of policy are silent when we should speak, the divine floods of light and life no longer flow into our souls. Let us take her warning to stand together and rise, to fill each other and to fill this world with the light of our Torah, of our people, and our Holy One. Please rise, we turn to page 46 for the Amidah.
Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Ve'koneh וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל, אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה למען אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Susan B. Anthony wrote, I distrust those people who know so well what God wants them to do, because I notice it always coincides with their own desires. Witty and insightful, to say the least. But as we take a moment now for silent prayer and meditation, we certainly call to mind those things that we know are our desires, and we pray that those desires align with those of the Holy One. But we also pray that the Holy One should reach down and move our desires in a way that they should align with those of the Holy One, to help us strive to build that more perfect union toward a world that is full of peace and blessing.
Elohai nitzor לשון מרע ושפתי מדבר מרמה ולמקללי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לעקור תהיה אלוהי אלוהי ניצור לשוני מרע ושפתי מדבר מרמה ולמקללי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לעקור תהיה אלוהי ניצור לשוני מרע ושפתי מדבר מרמה ולמקללי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לעקור
Shabbat Shalom. For many years, we have struggled as a clergy team to try to do everything that we wish we would be able to do. And so I was very grateful this year when the Board of Trustees said, we'll add one more full-time rabbi to our wonderful spiritual team. And then began an opportunity to embark on a search led by Aileen Fisher and Gina Sugar in a wonderful search committee to try to find that right fit as a partner for our congregation. We spent a lot of time talking about what it was that we were searching for. And one of the things that we talked about, we may not have used these exact words, but it was clear from the sentiments that everyone shared, was someone who possessed an extraordinary measure of what we call Ahavat Yisrael, a love for the Jewish people. And in Rabbi Elana Rabishaw, we have found someone who exudes more love and more passion for the Jewish people than anyone that I have encountered of her generation. She not only is a master of text and has a master's of Hebrew letters and Jewish education, and knows her stuff backwards and forwards, but she exudes not just a surface love, it's a deep, abiding love for what is the Jewish people and what is the mission of our congregation. And so when she agreed to be our rabbi, we leapt for joy. And it has been many months since we arrived at that wonderful decision. And we are so excited that today, July the 1st, we are blessed to have as our new teacher of Torah, Rabbi Elana Rabishaw.
I don't know how it's going to happen that every time Rabbi Dan talks about that moment, I tear up. Maybe one day it'll stop. But I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm just so excited to join this community. But I moved from Los Angeles, and since moving to Boca, there have been several moments of realizing that, wow, I don't live in California anymore. For example, on my very first night here, I was at a hotel because my lease had not started, and I was walking my dog Busby around the hotel, and without much warning, the skies opened up. For a whole 7 minutes, there was a lot of rain, and then it was over. It had been a long time since I had seen summer rain. And in Florida, as we all know, or as you know, this time of year, there's a lot of rain forecasted, and there's more concern for when it is going to rain because it is plentiful and it is an inconvenience. There is something really magical, though, about rain. When water touches the earth that has come from the skies, it brings life to soil, it allows nature to grow, and perhaps most importantly, here in Florida, it breaks the humidity. Because there is no constant drought or conversation about drought, and because we are so lucky to live so close to the ocean, there are a plethora of opportunities this weekend to watch fireworks in honor of the 4th of July. And the idea of fireworks are actually kind of crazy. On the ground, fire crackles, it brings warmth, it brings light, and it can, as the expression goes, spread like wildfire. The idea of shooting fire, which is not an object, it's a gas, into the sky to create art that we now know as fireworks is really nothing short of magic, and actually happened accidentally. Many, many years ago, and historians have said as early as 200 BCE in China, someone threw bamboo into a fire trying to add more fuel to it. And instead, it crackled and the first firework was born. Centuries later, an alchemist mixed various chemicals on a search to find eternal life. And during this, he put the chemicals into bamboo and lit it on fire. And that was the first, what they call paper fireworks. Over time, fireworks evolved, and they were shot into the sky to become aerial, and colors were added to more closely resemble the magic that we will see over the beach this weekend. But why are fireworks magical? For me, they defy the laws of nature, because without this container, fire spreads, and yet fireworks, they go up just for moments, and then they disappear. Similarly, there are countless other things in this world that seem to defy the laws of nature. We see them through our daily miracles. We feel them when something fits just perfectly. Perhaps we feel them during the most beautiful rendition of Yismachu that we've heard in a very, very long time. And we read them in the Torah. Ancient rabbis teach in Pirkei Avot that in the very last moments of creation, God creates 10 final things before resting on the first Shabbat. The first, and I'm going to count them out, is the mouth of the earth that swallowed Korach, who is a character in this week's Torah portion. The second is the well that hydrated the Israelites through the very, very hot desert while they were wandering. And for those of you who were just in the desert in Israel, perhaps with Rabbi Dan, you know that hydration is very, very important. Third is the mouth of the donkey who we will read about next week that spoke to Balaam and offered blessing. The fourth was the rainbow after the flood. The fifth was the manna that the Israelites ate while wandering. The sixth was Moses' staff that, among other things, turned into a snake. The seventh was the shamir, which is this magic worm that actually ate through rock and was used in building the breastplate that was worn during the time of the first temple in Jerusalem. The eighth were the letters that turned into the 10 Commandments. The ninth was the writing of the 10 Commandments. And the 10th were the actual 10 Commandments. These are different pieces that throughout the Torah, Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz teaches are connected to one another because all of them seem to defy laws of nature as well. Rainbows need just the right amount of sun and rain to be visible. In this week's Torah portion, the mouth of the earth opens up literally in a way that comes straight out of science fiction to absorb people that come together to rise up against Moses and doubt God. And the first physical copy of the 10 Commandments, these tablets, bring up some of the most challenging questions in all of Judaism. Who wrote the Torah, and when was it written? Questions can help us to deepen our connection to one another and to this world. As I get to know you in more small groups, I will ask a lot of questions to learn your story and to get to know you. And when thinking about the 10 things that were created right before resting, right before that feeling that we will all feel in just a few moments, I'm reminded that sometimes we don't actually need answers to our questions. Sometimes the answer can be that it was just a little bit of magic, maybe a little bit of pixie dust. In a rational world, it's a really, really challenging concept to accept that something can happen without explanation. With a smartphone in our hand and the internet at our disposal, we have all been programmed to think that there is an answer and that there has to be an answer And if we just spend a couple more minutes looking, we'll find it. But what I think the rabbis are trying to teach us here is that not only is it okay that not everything always has a clear answer, but rather that's part of how and why the world works. It was how it was meant to be. We don't have to know why the world was made in such a way that there is scarcity and abundance of the same commodity in different places at the same time. We don't need to know the particulars of every single science experiment that got us from that first paper firework to the beautiful art that we will see over the sky. But one of our responsibilities is to look around with amazement and curiosity around our world and simply acknowledge that there's a little bit of magic, a little bit of what we can't describe. It might be grand, it might in fact be a talking donkey, and if you see one, let me know. It might be the magic that is interwoven into technology that allows us to live stream services. I know my grandmother is watching right now in California, and to video chat with loved ones. And when we can acknowledge that there's a little bit of magic, our world gets a little bit bigger. May our blessing of freedom this Shabbat be to realize that the magic around us allows our dreams to be huge and the possibilities to reach them be endless. Ken Yehi Ratzon, so may it be God's will.
Rabbi, over the last 5 or 6 months, we have gotten to know each other. You've gotten to know members of our community, and there's something magical that happens when something that you have been planning for and working for months and months and months comes to fruition. I think you also know that it's not only folks who are here in this room, but some friends and colleagues that we have in common. We're also working to play a little matchmaker to make sure that this moment tonight has come to fruition. And we are just so pleased and so privileged and so overwhelmed with joy to welcome you to our Bima and to our congregation. And so if we can come together and sing these words to celebrate this magical moment for everyone.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Amen.
I ask everyone now to please rise. Mishaberach Avotenu B'Motenu. May the God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bring the gift of refuah shlema, of healing of mind, of body, and spirit, to those in our families and our community who are suffering from illness and from injury. Tonight we think of and pray for the healing of Meredith Abramson, Jim Alexander, Fred Belkin, Judy Blackman, Mike Blackman, Margie Berman Block, Kathleen Bowersox, Dorothy Buxbaum, Ed Burns, Michael Campbell, Alicia Campbell, Jessica Datz, Arnold Erne, Esther Tehila Bas Ariel Tipora, Rhonda Finlay, Hinda Finston, Marvin Finston, Raven Holzer Frankel, Marty Fromowitz, Larry Guys, Sandy Gorfin, Marsha Hoffman, Sandra Homer Warner, Keith Hummer, Jack Kalmanson, Mitch Kaplan, Norman Kaufman, Jessica Lanzalata, Steve Lyons, Marba Mallet, John Mandiel, Juliet Martell, Michael Penn, Norma Palchik, Milton Plotzker, Jackie Robinson, Cynthia Romero, Ron Rosen, Eileen Rosenbaum, Alan Rosenfeld, Gail Smith, Joan Weidenfeld, Tom Weidenfeld, Mike Ewell, and Samantha Zabner. And to those names, we add those in your hearts and your minds that we share as we go around the congregation. For those of you who are joining us virtually, please call the name of your loved one to mind at this time as well. Baruch atah Adonai Rafeh HaCholim. We praise you, Adonai, who helps bring healing to the sick. Standing and turn to page 282 for Aline. Pleasure to invite up our temple's Executive Vice President, Gina Sugar, to offer greetings and announcements on the behalf of the Board of Trustees.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you, Marcy, for the beautiful Kiddush. I want to just give a heartfelt welcome to Rabbi Rabishaw. We're so happy to have you. Upcoming events at Temple Bethel. Temple Bethel's Sisterhood will welcome Rabbi Rabishaw for a fun and festive night with music at Crazy Uncle Mike's on July 20th at 6 p.m. You can register at tbeboca.org. There's a special Shabbat evening service series for the next 5 Shabbats where our rabbis will use thought-provoking ideas from Pirkei Avot, the wisdom of our fathers, to bring meaning and depths into our lives. So the rest of the Fridays in July at 7:30, and then August 5th at 6. You can join us in person here or watch online. Join America's favorite pastime at the Brotherhood's baseball outing, July 31st at 1 p.m., and cheer on your favorite Marlins or Mets. Kids are able to run the bases after the game. And go to the website if you'd like to register. We hope you will stay after services for oneg and schmooze in the social hall. As you make your way out, feel free to donate to our Tzedakah Fund, which will support local nonprofits in their important work. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Our thoughts now turn to those who have come and gone, those whose lives brought us joy and celebration, and whose memories live on through us as a blessing. We think in this moment of the words of Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who wrote that the best protection any woman can have is courage. Courage, what holds us up when we are in the depths In the valley of the shadow of death, courage which we use to put one foot in front of the other, even when we feel the weight of grief. And so for those who are in grief, those who are observing a yahrzeit or in a period of mourning, we invite you to please rise as the name of your loved one is recalled. Tonight at the yahrzeit, the anniversaries of their passings, we recall Alexander Abram, Jack Adelman, Lily Alter, Irving Alter, Sidney A. Altman, Sarah Anton, Arthur Averbook, Abraham Bader, Helen Barak, Irving Barris, Sandra G. Bendet, Ronald Berg, Daniel Bernheim Jr., Carolyn Binder, Benjamin Block, Martin Block, Gigi Brockman, Selma Buxbaum, Bernard Berger, Alvin Cohen, Renee Cohen, Philip W. Cohen, Bernice Disler, Becky Eisenberg, Sidney Fowler, Ruby Fine, Kate Fingerhut, Bertha Frank, Abraham Frankenstein, Ray Freed, Leonard Garci, Erwin Gars, Gertrude Gershkoff, Priscilla Gilbert, Richard Gitlitz, Morris Goldberg, Sidney Goldberg, George Gordon, Annette Greenwald, Kate Halley, Shirley Halperin, Frida Hanowitz, Jacob Hasid, Selma Hauser, Stella Jablau, Doris Jacobs, Sylvia Jacobs, Hyman Kaiser, Theodore Cantor, Herbert Kaplan, Ida Kaplan, Sarah Carr, Arthur Casper, Emmanuel Katz, Joseph Kaufman, Dr. Morris S. Kirshner, Gussie Kornitsky, Harold Critchman, Sarah Rachel Levine, Joanne Levine, Charles Miller, Barry Minkin, Minerva Moses, Isaac Naiman, Elizabeth Palavin, Valentin Pimstein, Rosabelle Podolsky, Roberta Rashba Brown, Augusta Reiner, Bessie Rosenfeld, Joseph Rubenstein, Dr. Dave B. Ruskin, Norma Schaffer, Esther Schlossberg, Louis Schwartz, Howard Schwartz, Esther Malka Schwartz, Ida Siegel, Marjorie Seiler, Katie K. Sherman, Joy Silverman, Kenneth Thomas Simowitz, William Smerling, Joan Steinberg, Mac J. Stessen, Rabbi Yaakov Thompson, Philip Toback, Jeanette Trinkowski, Dr. Albert Barnett Tucker, Jules J. Wexler, Larry Weiner, Helen Wohl, Jane M. Zion, and Miriam Zwick. And those who passed in the last 30 days, we remember Dawn Jonas, Janice Wallach, Mickey Weinberger, Gerald Dorff, Jacob Marwell Geller, Fanny Zablau, Selma Drucker, Abby Wolf, Alfred Towley, Karen Kornhaber, and Melvin Kernis. If there are others for whom you are saying Kaddish this evening, we invite you to please rise now and share their name as we go around the congregation. And those of you who are joining us virtually, you can call your loved ones to mind at this time as well. Zichronam livracha. May their memories always be for a blessing. We rise now as a community and turn to page 294 as together we say the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudsha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who sends peace from the high heavens send peace to all of us and comfort the bereaved among us, as together we say, amen.
We'd like to thank our wonderful musicians, to Chris on the piano and Maymay on the violin and Jeff on the drums. Thank you to Raymond and Ron and Kira behind the scenes. And let's all join in the words of America the Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of
children to join us up here on the bima for Motzi.
That means
Come on
you,
up.
Daphne.
Daphne, that means you. We have some others as well. Ms. Haspel, you're not that old.
Eliana Cohen.
Eliana.
Eliana's back there. R11.
Ready, guys? Hurry, hurry, hurry. Embarrassed children. Echad.
Over there.
Shtayim. Shalosh. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem